going on, Jerome's? This Christmas, the Vikings are 13-2 and control their own destiny. And did you know the Vikings win their next 5 games? So say they take this cutesy-wootsy 8-game winning streak and they expand, enhance to 15 game. Well, no, that's bad math. 13 games, 5 more games. The Vikings win the Super Bowl. Because win the next 2 games, you got the North, you got the 1 seed, division round, NFC Championship game, Super Bowl. Not saying, I'm just saying. It's a lot closer than you think, but still a lot of football left to be played. But we got to tell the truth on Monday. So we're 10, actually 11, another bad math. 11 truths about the Minnesota Vikings. Let's get on. Number 1, it was a big boy showing on the road. And it was a game where the Vikings, they didn't have their best stuff at times. Defense, they got marched on a couple times. They look a little bit gassed. Offensively, they look stagnant, especially when the interior offensive line was just giving away now. But when they needed plays, when they needed that touchdown drive, when they needed the defense get a takeaway, get a couple sacks, push them way back in field goal range, miss that 60-yarder, which it's kind of nice to have special teams miscues go against the Vikings. Kind of nice for sure. But an absolute great showing, and it's a big-time win and fully box office. Also, it's just I know that this season's team doesn't have anything to do with the previous teams that lost in Seattle, but it's nice to get off that schneid. It's nice to come away from the Emerald City with a win. Number 2, truth on a Monday, Slinging Sammy Darnold is elite. He's playing like a top 5 quarterback. Now, I know that's inconvenient, but things change, and I know that the Vikings had a plan. Slinging Sammy Darnold was going to be the bridge quarterback. J.J. McCarthy, if he stayed healthy, maybe he takes over. Even if McCarthy was healthy, I don't think that he would have taken over at any point, including Jacksonville. Jacksonville might have been close, but things do change, and the Vikings have been searching for a franchise quarterback for years. They have one. They have one right now. It's Slinging Sammy. Now, you could say he's a product of his environment, yes, and I believe in J.J. McCarthy. There's no guarantee that he'll be able to replicate what Darnold is doing right now. I mean, Darnold has a high draft pedigree as well. Now, I think that he will, but it's not a guarantee. Plus, it'd be so crazy if the Vikings just completely reprogram Darnold and he just explodes in Tennessee, with the Giants, with Las Vegas, with the Rams, wherever he goes, right? So that'd be kind of embarrassing. That'd be like the worst case scenario. The Vikings let Darnold go, and McCarthy ain't it, even though I think that he will be, and it's just whatever. But I also understand, the greatest competitive advantage right now is having your starting quarterback on his rookie deal. Think of what the Vikings can do with all that cap space. They'll have it, right? And also, think about this rooster right now. Think about everything that's been assembled right now. And the Vikings also had the greatest free agent class in NFL history with Grenard and Cashman and AVG and Gilly at times, right? But the Vikings have done all this with $62 million dead against the cap because of the void years coming home to roost for Kurt, for Daniil, and for Marcus Davenport. Right, so Kwesi and Rob Brzezinski, I trust them. And even if they tag Darnold and have that 41 million dead on the cap, or not dead, but on the cap in 2025, the Vikings could and should be able to maneuver, right? Because they can push cap hits to 2026, they can feather things out, they can leverage Darnold to that 1-year deal like we talked about. So there's lots of options there. But I feel like at a certain point, you have to keep him in the fold for 2025, and the Vikings do have all the leverage here. Bottom line, they could just franchise tag him, and he is here. And we'll see. Also, I think could Darnold take a little bit less on a multi-year deal just because he knows that his best chance to succeed is here and not with the Raiders? Who knows? But 5-game winning drives, 12 games above 100 quarterback rating, which is good. It's pretty damn good. And Slinging Sammy, he's playing like an MVP candidate. Won't win because Lamar and Josh Allen and Saquon have been fantastic. But MVP voting, he'll get a couple votes. If I could find a market where we can bet Sam Darnold finishes top 5 in MVP voting, I feel like that's free money. So we'll see what happens. Of course, yes, blah, 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 blah. The next 5 games will greatly determine what happens with Sam Darnold this offseason. Number 3, run the ball to rest the defense. And I know that sounds like asinine because I love when the Vikings push the tempo, especially when they get a personnel mismatch and go up tempo. But the defense was gassed. The defense was straight up gassed against Seattle. Now, part of that has been the Vikings relying on veterans too much this season, not enough rotation, especially up front. But, the Vikings defense was just gassed. They're just up against it. They got marched on in the fourth quarter by Seattle. And the Vikings, they got to run the football, right? And it's not just controlling the clock, controlling the tempo, slowing things down a bit, keeping play action viable, and getting some confidence for that much beleaguered offensive line. Aaron Jones is ready to take over. Like, Aaron Jones is just chomping at the bit. He's ripped off some big-time runs. He wants a big-time game, and he'll certainly have that. Next up, number 4. Jefferson proved that he's still him. And I know that there's a lot of haters and losers that constantly want to downgrade Justin Jefferson. Oh, Amon-Ra is better. Amon-Ra always plays in the slot and goes up against linebackers and safeties. Congratulations. Or Jamar Chase is better. Blah, 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 blah. Let's see what Jamar does with consistent double and triple teaming. But Seattle's got a very talented secondary. Witherspoon, for my money, is one of the best young corners in the game, so respect. But Jefferson, 10 catches, season high, 144 yards, season high, 2 touchdowns, tied for a season high. He did amazing in a spot where the weather was bad and you had to have it. This wasn't just some random blowout stat padding type game. This was every single catch mattered, especially the one on the end, the kill shot, the 39-yarder. Love to see it, man. It's fantastic. Next up, number 5. I'm sick in the interior offensive line. I'm just done. I'm just out, right? So Brandel, Bradbury, even Reisner, Ed Ingram, just gone. Just gone. They can all go. Where we said before, you can put resources in there through the draft, and Darnold, if he's back, he's going to cost a penny, but I do not care. Tevin Jenkins, Matt Freese, Ryan Kelly, Trey Smith, spend money, get this badass interior offensive line good to go. And also, the number one thing is move on from Bradbury. Like, Bradbury is just good enough to tease you, but he's going to let you down. Like, he's the Daniel Jones of centers. Like, move on. Because you got 2 great bookend centers. Darrisaw is going to be back with a vengeance, as well as Brian O'Neill is still one of the best right tackles in the game. So revamp the interior, and guess what? Everything will get better. And we're very lucky that Slinging Sammy Darnold has the pocket awareness and mobility to buy extra time. And I know we piss and moan about him hanging on to the ball too long, or the whole thing was like, oh, whoa, he saw a ghost with the Jets. Yeah, you would see ghosts with the Jets too, with that offensive line. And this interior can be just as bad. So it's a major, what Darnold's able to do right now. Next up, number 6, the pass rush is a major issue as well. So, the pass rush, it got home in a timely fashion, but consistently, they're just not getting there. Now, Geno, in the second half, he was getting moved off the spot. He was getting hit. It was all good. But the Vikings simply cannot generate that interior pass rush. And not having Jalen Redmond as he was in concussion protocol, that certainly didn't help things. I did like that Levi Drake Rodriguez got a little bit of run, got a nice little goal line stop. But having someone up front that can get their own pass rush is going to be paramount. Also, when they blitz, it just feels like the blitzes have been stonewalled the last couple of games. And plus, it's been an issue too. Like, the Vikings, they didn't get much going against Seattle. Poor offensive line. They didn't get anything going against the Rams, a game they lost. Very poor offensive line due to injuries. So it almost seems like they get outmatched, out-schemed. Don't know what it is, right? But I trust Flores and Pettin to be able to fix things here. And eventually, Pace Jr. being back is going to be huge. Harrison Smith being healthy is going to be huge as well. So ideally, the blitzes are going to get home. Ideally, they're able to get pressure with 4, because that will be the great equalizer in the playoffs. But yeah, not getting home, and then you're playing soft zone on the back end. Anyone can pick that apart. Yeah. Next up, number 7. Josh Metellus is turning to a star. So Foe has done some amazing stuff. Metellus, and not only is he playing every single position, but he's making an impact, and a lot of ways that don't even show up in the stat box. Like, he's push and pursuit into his teammates. He's blitzing both in the A-gap as well as the edge. He's setting the edge against the run. He's dropping back in coverage. He's completely walling off certain areas of the field. Metellus has been amazing. And we're going to have a decision to make too. So Metellus is on his 2-year, $8 million deal. $4 million a year is far below the value that he brings to this team, because he signed it as a special teamer and a backup. So the Vikings are probably going to have to freshen up his contract. Will it come down to deciding between Beasley and Metellus? Hopefully not. Like I would like to keep both, but I understand that, especially if the Vikings keep Darnold, especially if the Vikings want to go big game hunting in free agency, especially on the interior offensive and defensive lines, it's going to cost them. All right, but Josh Metellus is definitely turning into a stud. Deserves to be in the Pro Bowl, deserves some All-Pro love as well. Next up, number 8. Also, if Harrison retires, like, this is going to be Josh Metellus' show, because a lot of Metellus' work against Seattle was the role you traditionally see Harrison Smith in, which is great. Next up, number 8. The Vikings miss Harrison Smith and Ivan Pace Jr. So the aforementioned Harrison Smith, his leadership and communication on the back end is huge. And the Vikings last couple games, they missed Harrison against Seattle. They missed Gilly the 2 previous games. And the veterans back there, communication is big. And not having that, I mean, maybe that's one of the reasons why the Vikings were soft on the back end at times, right? But Harrison Smith still setting the edge, still setting the tone, still being a great leader. It's fantastic. Physically, the Vikings miss Pace Jr. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Vikings struggle at times with getting home with the blitz, because Pace Jr.'s both run blitzes as well as third down blitzes are amazing. And just having that energy, just having that juice, plus Pace and Cashman, like, they've only been teammates for a year, but their level of communication is so strong that I think that having those guys back is going to make a night and day difference on that defense. It's going to be good. Next up, number 9. Number 9. Have to deal with physical wide receivers. So you saw exactly what happened with DK Metcalf. Now, DK certainly pushed off against Gilmore, but it's something that the Vikings corners are going to have to get accustomed to, because in the playoffs, you got A.J. Brown of the Eagles, you got Mike Evans of the Bucs, although the Bucs probably aren't going to make the playoffs. You got Drake London of the Falcons, you got Puka with the Rams, you got Amon-Ra, who pound for pound is still tough as hell. I mean, you're going to have to take a punch and you're going to have to give a punch. All right, so the Vikings in that secondary, the corners, whether it's Gilly, whether it's Murph, whether it's Shaq, whether it's Nudie, like, you're going to have to be good to go, right? Because you're going to have some physical, tough-ass receivers out there, and generally, like, they'll let things go in the playoffs. So you're going to have to get physical, going to have to get sticky, and go from there. Next up, number 10. 1 seed, nothing less, 5 wins. You hoist that Jerome Barty, right? So win out. Last 2 games against the Greasy Grandma Green Bay Packers at home, the Lions Week 18 at Detroit Motor City, completely crap in their cornflakes, which would be beautiful. And then divisional round, handle your business, NFC title game, Super Bowl. That's it. That's really all it takes. And lastly, Kevin O'Connell's Coach of the Year. Like, this should not even be controversial, where Dan Campbell did great things, but everyone expected the Lions to be good. Like, Andy Reid's done great things. Everyone expected the Chiefs to be good. The Vikings had a win total of 6.5. Over-under before the start of the season. They doubled that. And I know previous years don't factor in, but 2 years of 13 wins plus, pretty damn good. And also, it's a regular season award. If and when the Vikings win the North and the 1 seed, it's over. It's a wrap. It's donezo. It's finito, right? So, like, if the Vikings do that, like, how the hell are they going to give the Coach of the Year award to the guy who got the 5 seed? Nah, it doesn't make sense. But Kevin O'Connell, much deserved Coach of the Year. And whatever happens at quarterback, whatever happens with the Rooster, as long as Kevin O'Connell is here, I trust it. And Kwesi's definitely turned things around as well. This roster is fantastic. It's elite. They've done a ton with a lot of dead cap, and coaching has been fantastic. The vibes are immaculate. This culture is something that you're building on. And guess what? Players want to be here. And I think that players want to stay here. So I think that could affect the dollars and cents at the end of the day. Maybe, I mean, money is money, but maybe people take a little bit less just to have a chance to win a Super Bowl, as well as have a chance to have fun, as opposed to, I don't know, joining the Raiders or the Jaguars or the Titans. That seem like fun? A couple $1 million more? But we'll see. Anyways, that's it. That's at 11. Truths about your 13-2 Minnesota Vikings. Let us know your thoughts, our thoughts, comment section. You guys know what to do. Skol, production value.